prospective husband is capable of taking care of a beloved daughter. The purpose of this negotiation is to measure commitment. It culminates in an agreed token of appreciation, which in past times was given in cattle or land. It was something of value to prove value. Today, one gives money as it is the common measure of value. Now, I call you back to the effects of monetization, the affluenza that blinds a man's self-sight to the point of redefining their character and judgment. Imagine a family paying bride price, doing so with a hefty check. This action may be sullied and labeled as purchase, laced with undertones of ownership, providing a crucial fact: money invested demands expectation. Now, why does this all matter? Human beings relate with the concept of something for something, input for output, that tickle that creates the laughter. A family may develop expectations of the daughter they paid so much for. A husband may feel his wife ought to act a certain way as compensation for the hefty bride price he paid. These feelings are internalized and begin the thought process that may ultimately lead to abuse and conflict. This brings us back to the question: has monetization led to a perception of ownership? The answer is a little complex, as no one can completely account for monetization being the sole reason for such an idea. But one thing stands certain: monetization contributes to the thought of it being nurtured. Families that think this way intentionally or unintentionally treat their daughters-in-law as owned properties. Adding insult to injury, the ratification and agreement of the girl's family facilitates her vulnerability to abuse, as the people responsible for her protection are agreeable to the situation. Now, in this kind of light, it's pretty clear that the notion at hand rings at its truest. But every story has two sides. People are different. Facebook users are not the same as Twitter users. Entrepreneurs are not job seekers. And Anfield will never be Old Trafford, however red it may become. Families vary in culture and tradition, despite the similar ethnic background that they share. A marriage brings these differences together. And while for some it happens amicably, for others it's turbulent and almost impossible. Husbands and wives may also fall into conflict for similar reasons. Besides obvious differences in culture, abuse can arise from a plethora of circumstances that range from personality to character, even some creative differences. A scenario is then created where a woman is vulnerable to abuse. Now, looking at the notion in this light, it is light-footed and consequently untrue. And so a conundrum is worked together. This question has no single answer because we are all involved. Those who see truth in the notion are as right as those who don't see truth in the notion. What matters is the conversation. The question opens doors to the whole story. Much can be said, but the much that matters is the much that can be done. How can the pace of societal evolution accommodate tradition and culture while maintaining its sanctity? How do we keep marriage and its processes within their original purpose? The most potent ideas are solutions to questions that concern each and every one of us. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an era where voices sound loudest. Let your answer to these questions be the one that lets the world hear yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Say, the educators wants your name once again.
My name is Bani Mahahikwa.
How did you spell that?
P-A-N-I-N-A-H-A.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Another resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. To avoid twisting my tongue, say I'll call you Pani. Not Pani, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor again to welcome the second contestant in the speech category, Madame Amina Michelle. A big round of applause for her. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We can do better than this. Yeah, boy, yes. If we ever go. Over to you, madam. Do you need a microphone or you want to follow suit? Thank you.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What an amazing speaker, and it's a shame to speak right after him. It really is the audacity. Is my 7 minutes?
You started the minute you started speaking. You can stop. I will start again the clock. The time starts now.
Sure. I'd like all of us to pose a question to ourselves right now. If you're a woman, when was the first time you ever realized that you were a girl? For me, the first time I realized I was a girl was when I walked past a truck and a man old enough to be my grandfather said, "Makwele angu, I would have paid mazimombe for you." I didn't understand what that meant. So me being me, I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, a man said he was going to pay mazimombe for me if I had been in his era, if I had been alive in his era." And my mom said, "Oh, mawana yataka." And I was only 21 years old when I actually understood what that man meant back then when I was 14 years old. When I was 14 years old, he meant that he could have purchased me with so much cattle, right? So, someone is probably cringing at the use of the word purchase in my statement. So there are two schools of thought that you could either follow. But as one of the great scholars of the Great French Revolution said, man is born free, but is in every way in chains. And one of the chains that we have held onto as a society is culture. It's culture. And culture is our ways of doing things, our norms and our practices, right? But the thing with culture is as people evolve, it has to evolve with the people. And what happens when we hold on to cultures that no longer serve us? We need to come to a point where we agree that certain parts of our culture need to die. But no one has the right to hold a gun at anyone and say, this has to die. If you want lobola paid for you, then so be it. If you don't want lobola paid for you, then so be it. No one has the right to say, you can, you can't. You decide what you want, because man is born free and has to be everywhere free and not in chains. Not in chains of anyone's opinion and not in chains of anyone's culture. The very first point I'm going to raise for those who want to have lobola paid for them. If you're a Christian like myself, the Bible says she's altogether beautiful and beautiful to behold, right? And to love a woman is to honor her. And if money is what it takes to honor her and honor those who raised her, then so be it. But I would like to highlight a point here. If anyone is to do anything today, we should all not be quick to judge what they have done, but what we should look at is the motive behind, the purpose behind it. If you come with your 10,000 United States dollars and you flaunt them before my father and you say, right? As the Shona people would say, the Shona youngsters would say. If you flaunt it before my father like that, it's not to honor me. It's to raise your own ego and to say, I bought her, I purchased her. And in that sense, I become your commodity. And in the law of property, there is a greatly used term, which is the right of ownership, which is the greatest of all rights. And it comes into being simply because someone has been able to pay a price for something, which is the pretium, right? And the pretium, who determines the pretium? In most cases in African societies, your father, your uncle, or whoever is the predominant male being in your family that determine how much gets to be paid for you, right? Hence you have issues around they took our child for less than what we desired that they would have taken her for. In that sense, it ceases to be an honorary fee. It becomes prettier. So that's the first point I'm raising. The second point that I'm raising is that generally there is a psychological effect that comes with money. He who has it has power. And he who pays it has the ultimate power, right? So it then comes to you as the woman. Are you saying that you are worth that amount of money that your partner paid to your parents? Therefore, you are willing to go left if they say go left, or go right when they say go right. At the end of the day, I think how you see yourself and how you value yourself is going to determine the effect that lobola has on you, right? You still have a voice even though they have paid that money. You need to understand that this lobola being paid does not determine the dynamics of your relationship with this partner. Whether you get to make decisions in that home, whether your voice gets to be heard in that home, should not be dependent on how much they paid for you as a roora or lobola. The other point I'm going to raise is, no one is a commodity. No one ought to be sold. We need to shift our language as society. Our language as society. Language has so much power. When we say roora kutenga munu, as Shona people would say, or buying a person, then it means that we are reducing the status of a woman to that of a commodity, which is not true. However, if we say lobola or dowry or bride price is an honorary fee, then at the end of the day, what we have is a society that understands that a man in his full stature decides, I'm going to honor this woman who I am choosing to do life with for the rest of my days. I'm going to honor her family for raising her. I'm going to honor the woman who mothered her, the father who fathered her, and whoever has played a significant role to her becoming. I'm going to honor them with this amount of wealth. Then at the end of the day, we cease to have a society that only wants to dwindle a woman to the status of a commodity. So my call to all of us here is, number one, our major focus should be on the language that we use. Language has so much power. Language has so much power. It influences thought processes and it influences our perception on things. So if we are going to go about the world thinking that anything that we pay money for is a purchase, anything that we pay money for is a commodity, anything that we pay money for conveys the right of ownership, anything that we pay money for conveys the right to use, to dispose, to alienate, and to do anything, then at the end of the day, we create the wrong perception of this whole concept of roora. Culture is what makes us. Culture makes us a people. But at the end of the day, we need to be sure that we choose which cultures to follow and which ones not to. And it's all a choice.
Wonderful. That's out of picture name. Naika says, "Hey, madam, where? Come on, name. Don't let you go." All right. Got smiley. All right. Money come no go to us again. Wonderful. Sweet. Do not no post oga. Oga china nai. So another round of applause for our second speaker. Wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, the notion stands. Monetization has led to the perception that lobola renders women the property of men and perhaps more vulnerable to abuse by husbands and in-laws. I take the notion to a greater extent. The paying of lobola has made a woman a commodity due to the prices that are being charged by our parents. Long back when we used to pay lobola, I would take a garden fork and take it to the woman I love as a sign of lobola. But now my parents have to buy a house in the suburbs to prove that their daughter was married. Thus, the commodification of a woman. Lobola now has become more of has become more of something that can be used to strip a woman of her rights, a sexual, social, economic rights, and be used to suppress her
as a slave. Earlier, before, it was used as a family uniter, which would unite two families. But now it is used to suppress the woman. She has no right to decide when shall she sleep with the husband. Shall she use protection or not? She is now vulnerable to a lot of diseases. That's why you see the statistics have gone up in terms of HIV and AIDS for married women and married couples, because the woman no longer has a choice, because she has become a commodity. Economically, she is not allowed to give suggestions within the house. I would like this new set of sofas. Please keep quiet. All the money went to your family. Sit on these garden chairs. They're as good as sofas. She has no right to ask, when I propose you, I will be a good liar. I will say, no, I will help you continue with your studies. But the moment I pay your lobola, it is a dream. You have no power to ask me about your fees, because all the money, even if it's 5 years later, went to your parents. It has socially stripped the woman of her rights. She cannot comment in public places or stand at this podium where I am. If I was a patriarchal man, you would be home crying just for putting on makeup because I paid lobola. Thus, you are a commodity to whoever who would have married you. If monetarization of lobola is not twisted and turned into what it was culturally. We might blame our culture, but there are people who are greedy, who have manipulated the culture to their benefit so that they amass great wealth and quoted the connotation culture, even if it is not the culture. The culture is to unite two families, not to get rich. So by this, I stand by the notion that monetarization has made a woman more of a slave or a commodity and stripped her of her human rights, her basic living rights, and turned her into a mop, a rag within the house, a family tool, a child-making machine, rather than a family member. On the other hand, monetization is also a sign of value to the woman. As I stand, if I were to be a father today, I would not let my daughter, who I've educated so proudly, go for a lesser prize. I do not deny the fact that I would be proud to take out my daughter with a large sum of money to prove a point, not because of greed. Thus, it is a two-sided, but to a greater extent, I, as Julius, stand alone and say that it has turned the woman into a slave, an animal, a non-entity, which is suppressed and abused within the house. I thank you.
Women and prone to abuse from their husbands. This is partially true because when we purchase properties, when we purchase pets and dogs, we can alter them. We can channel them into behaving the way we want them to behave. And that's what the husbands have turned our women into. They want them to do they want them to live their lives according to what they want, according to how they want it, because they have paid lobola. And when I was doing my research on my topic, I actually asked my friend, a male friend, and he said to me, yes, even if I buy a car, it's my money.
I choose what I want to do with it. And that's how our women are living their lives these days, because they were purchased. They're just like commodities, they're like properties, they're like everything men wants them to be. They are subject to abuse. If you are beaten today, you cannot go back to your parents because they will tell you he paid so and so much amount of money and we can't afford to give him back the money, so go back to your husband's house. And you are forced to go back because you have nowhere to go. Thus, monetization has led to the vulnerability and abuse of our women today. They also do whatever they want you to do, and they just do whatever. It's a belief that a woman has to be beaten so that they can be respected, they can be do whatever. And you can't do anything because he paid lobola for you. So technically, you are his property. He can do whatever he wants to do with you. But however, I would like to believe that monetization is the least of the, is partially true. Monetization is not what has led to the vulnerability and abuse of our women. It is our culture that has made men to believe that they're superior than women. I've known people who are living with husbands who did not pay anything for them, but they're being beaten every day. So lobola has nothing to do with the abuse and vulnerability of our women. I've known people who have paid so much money for lobola and not even a single day had they touched their wives because they paid money. But I think it is the culture that has made men to believe that they are superior than women, and they have made to believe that women need to be beaten so that they can respect them, their husbands, and they can do whatever they want. I've also known women who are doing well with husbands who paid so much and who paid nothing. So I stand here and say monetization has led to the vulnerability and abuse of our women to a greater extent. But however, it is not money that has led to the vulnerability and abuse of our women, but it is our culture. It is the belief of men that they are superior than women. It is the belief of men that they should treat women in a certain way. It is the belief that if you don't beat your wife, you show your wife mercy, if you love your wife nicely, and they'll say she had put something in your food or whatever, but that's not it. It is just an abusive nature of that particular man to abuse her husband, his wife, not because he had paid so much amount. Thank you.
Wonderful. Another resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Madam, like the tradition, let's shine in the same picture. Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Alright, so as you heard, they're going to introduce themselves. Because if we do that, we might be inaccurate to the Rwanda, to the abusive. So we're going to leave the floor to you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting to introduce myself, but I like keeping it short and sweet. I am Chantel Jeradi. I am a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I own Jeradi, a clothing brand. I own She Means Business Africa, which is an initiative that helps women in business. And I'm also the co-founder, the founder of Love Drive, which is a non-profit organization. And I'm also a business consultant for Procurio, where I help small to medium enterprises with their strategy, marketing, and visibility.
Hi, just like Chantel, I was definitely not prepared to introduce myself, but my name is Shamiso. I am the founder of Catalyst Investments, which is the owner of Catalyst Agro and Catalyst Moments. Both of these companies are geared towards giving women an opportunity to earn income and change their lives. I'm also the founder of the Lady Catalyst, which is a trust organization that then works with women and those vulnerable to learn how to manage their money and grow their money so that they don't have to be forced to stay in dangerous and abusive situations because they are dependent on their abuses.
All right, so thank you so much for the introductions. All right, so we're now getting into business, and the first thing that we want to talk about, okay, we're going to be talking about business relationships, and I'm talking about stakeholders and the business people. And as you know, when you talk about stakeholders, we're not talking about shareholders. I know that's what a lot of people are thinking, but then even the employees, the customers, we're all stakeholders. As long as you're interacting with the company, then you're a stakeholder, first things first. So, okay, we want to know now why this the relationship between the businesses and the stakeholders is important, because yes, we might say, yes, it's important, but how is it important? Why are we even talking about this? That's the first thing we might want to know from you.
Okay, so for me, I'm very thankful that I come from an African culture. I think the way that we're raised is to respect and to love everyone around us, regardless of their status or where they come from. Saying that because I do deal with a lot of stakeholders from America, and I've done business, and I am also into business with Americans, and you can tell the difference in culture. So when it comes to business relationships, like he said, stakeholders are not just the people that buy or that come into your shop or that use your services. It's also your receptionist. It's also the person who cleans your boardrooms. It's the people that make your clothes. If you're into fashion, if you're into agribusiness, it's the person who sells you the seeds or the fertilizers or whatever it is. Those are various stakeholders in your business. It can literally be someone just walking down the road. They see or experience or even see from a third-party perspective what you do with your business. They then have an opinion that they can carry to whoever they influence. So it is very important to have very good relationships, because you never know the value that a person can bring into your business. For example, sorry, do you have like a stool? Sorry. I can just put it in. For example, let's take, can someone just shout out what they do, or if they own a business?
I'm a fitness trainer.
Okay. For a fitness trainer, well, that's a difficult word. But stakeholders are not just the people that you train. It's where you buy your equipment. It's who supplies your equipment. It's the people that make your business cards. It's the people that you buy t-shirts from. It's the people that, if you are using a gym, the facilities that you use to train people. Those are various stakeholders in your business. So when you have a good relationship or good working relationship with people like that, you create a value and loyalty. So we all live in Zim where sometimes things can be tough. And sometimes, let's say a payment doesn't come in early, but you still need somebody to provide or supply a specific equipment to you. If your payment hasn't come in, because you've got a good working relationship with someone, it means that they can give it to you on credit, and then you can pay after 7 days. But if you don't have a good working relationship with someone like that, they don't bring ubuntu in the way that you do business. So that's a very major aspect of how you do business. The second one is referrals. If you are a great partner to work with or partner with in various aspects of your business, it means that you can get referred to different opportunities that you would never have thought of. You can your name can be spoken in rooms that you would never in your wildest dreams have ever thought that you would be present in. But somebody is vouching for you because of the way that you've maintained the relationship that you have with them. I'll leave Shamiso to say the rest.
Now I feel exactly like our last contestant. Where you're the last to speak, and she's leaving the rest, and I'm wondering, oh my God, what is the rest? For me, my belief is, I have a friend and mentor, Jeradi. He's always saying the difference between a contact and a contract is the R, which is the relationship. So in anything that you do, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working with someone, relationships are important, because only those will allow you to grow within the organization or to grow your business. And as Chantel has kind of talked mostly about the importance, I am just going to touch a little bit on the how, like how you should go about building strong relationships with business partners, stakeholders, and all of that. So the very first thing, the very important thing is you need to listen. And when you're listening, you're not listening to benefit. Do not listen and just look for stuff that is going to benefit you and uplift you. You are listening to try and understand, what is this person, going through? What does this person need? How can I add value to this person? How can I collaborate or maybe innovate with whatever that this person is doing? And only then, when you start taking yourself out of the equation, when you stop just thinking, having that me mentality, and you look at how best you can serve the people around you. If it's in your workplace, how are you going to ensure that, you make your supervisor look good? How are you going to ensure that you give your junior person a chance to learn and grow? If it's in a workplace, or if it's in your business, how are you going about ensuring that your client has received the very best from you? 110%. Only when you start thinking like that, when you have a perspective like that, can you then start being successful. Because when people believe that, you're for them, everybody wants someone on their side. And when you're on that person's side, they are more than willing to pay you however much that you need. So listening is definitely important. And then the next thing would be communication. When we communicate, you are trying to put your point across. You're trying to have the other person understand why what you're doing has value. You're trying to make the other person understand why you are the right partner for them. Whether it's in Njolo, like what our, the Tanyaradzwa was saying, that you're always trying to make the other person understand. So when you're communicating effectively, you need to ensure that you and the other person are both on the same page, that there's understanding. Do you understand what they need? If I walk into, a car sale, for example, and say, I want a big car, a D4D. Are you understanding that I just want this car? Or are you understanding that I want to ensure that when I get somewhere, everybody knows that I've gotten somewhere? Yeah. So it's not just looking at what has been explicitly said, it is also about looking at what might be implied and what a person might need. If I walk into a shop and I want hair, or walk into Chantel's shop and I want clothes, right? Maybe I'm not as very confident and I need to ensure that I look my very best so that regardless of what I say or how I feel, people are perceiving me to be someone who is well-spoken and elegant and just confident. So you need to understand the implied, what is implied when you're dealing with anyone really, whether it's business, church, home, everywhere. People have a tendency of only speaking one part of what it is that they actually need. So in order to be a person who adds value and who has strong relationships, you need to train yourself to be able to understand the implied need of people. I'll give this back to Chantel.
All right. But before we go any further,
Before you go any further, I love coming to events like this, but I don't want anyone to walk out without getting value. So can we bring out our books? If you've got a phone, bring out your phone. So the first thing, I was just inspired by what you just did. The first thing that you need to write down is, who are your stakeholders? List them down. Just list maybe 3 or 4 if you have them. List down your stakeholders. And then, like what Shamiso said, next to them, list what sort of value can you bring to them and what value do you need from them. This will then help you in how you interact and how you maintain or grow that relationship. So that's an activity for you to then do, or when you get home, look at what you wrote, look at the value that you bring them and the value that you need from them. And then going forward, treat that relationship with that goal in mind, that you need to extract and also get value from that.
Alright, thank you so much for the words. Really, I'm already enjoying this. But then you talked about Ubuntu, right? There's a strong connection between the Ubuntu and the relationship between the stakeholders and the business, right? And then she also talked about the different relationships and how we need to approach them. But then people are treated badly in workplaces, in shops even. I'm sure some of you have experienced some of those arguments in shops, right? But then we're stakeholders. And maybe we don't know how to react because we don't know our rights. We don't know how to deal with the situation. Do you think people are aware of their rights as the business people or their boundaries? And are the customers and other employees and just stakeholders in general aware of their rights? And how can they approach the situations?
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're asking is how do you deal with conflict
Yes.
in business relationships
Yes,
between stakeholders and the business owner? Okay.
And also adding on to how we know our boundaries when it comes to dealing with those conflicts, because
as business owners or as stakeholders?
Both sides.
Okay. As a business owner, what you need to realize is you got into business to solve a problem. That is your core, that's why you're in business, to solve a problem, not to make profit. Those are then now the benefits that you reap from solving a problem. So when you're solving a problem, always approach it as whoever is coming to me, they have an issue. So what happens when you have an issue? You're aggravated, you're angry, you're pissed off. So always walk into a situation knowing that when you're dealing with stakeholders, be it a customer or whatever it is, you need to be able to manage conflict. There are so many courses for you to do that are free on Google on conflict management. And it's something that's always going to come up as a business owner, whether it is a disgruntled customer or somebody who's unhappy who is in your employment. So you need to always just realize what is the situation about and don't go into things, my emotions or my feelings. We are human and obviously to not be in my emotions, but you need to take a step back and realize I'm here to solve a problem. This person has come to me with a problem. How can I solve that problem? So it can be the case of, who else is a business owner here? Please just shout what you do.
Digital marketing.
Sorry?
Digital marketing.
Ah, perfect. I love digital marketing. So in digital marketing, you are making a strategy or a social media plan for a client. You've made a monthly social media plan. They're not happy with what you have done. That is conflict because you were supposed to solve a problem and you didn't. Usually your ego says, I am the guru. I know what I'm doing because this is my job. I'm the expert. They don't know what they're doing. But you need to stop and do what Shamiso said. You listen. Listen to what their actual problem is. You created this, but the font is wrong. You created this, but this is not speaking the messaging that I want. So what you need to do is stop your ego and say, can the person, I want profit at the end of the day. So let me speak and actually solve the problem and actually feed the need. Do what you have been employed to do. This person has given you monetary value, give them the value that they need. So whenever you get into a situation, usapinde my emotions, my feelings. Just look at it or treat it as a problem that needs a solution. So you start by apologizing. I'm very sorry that you have experienced this. Please let me know how I can rectify this. Or please help me to understand what the issue is, and then I will see how I can solve it. So this is to go with your customer. When it comes to employees, I'm sure all of us have been employed at some point. We always feel like we're not heard. We always feel like we are being given the short end of the stick. What you then realize when you become a business owner is that you should give grace. You always think, oh, I'm the employee in Dindukubatirwa. But when you flip the coin and you become a business owner, or you actually have people you're responsible, you realize that there is a lot of things that employers go through. So you need to come or approach it as the full point of, I was once an employee, and I know what this person is going through. But now that I'm on the other side of the coin, I'm an employer, and there are so many things that I am going through that this person is not aware of. So transparency and communication that is respectful and kind and leads to the bottom line that you want is how you should always approach things. So when whatever you do, like I'm saying, like with whatever you do, always know that you have an end goal in mind. The end goal is to solve the problem. You cannot move forward without these stakeholders that are your employers or your suppliers. So you need to make or resolve the conflict by doing something that is mutually beneficial. Listen to them and understand where they're coming from, but also make them understand where you're coming from. It may be the sense in the case of you're digital marketing, right? Maybe you're not as good as graphic designing, so you employ someone to be a graphic designer for you. So let's say something happens where client is not happy with the work that your graphic designer has done. And then you also realize that your graphic designer goes slow and you don't understand why. You may come with aggravation and employing you, and giving you a job, but stop and listen to them. Ask them, how can I support you to do your job better? That's when a person will be like, boss, internet it's slow, so this then help is deadlines. I can't meet deadlines, so I'm rushing my project. Or it could be simple as the computer or the machine that you have given me is low res, therefore the quality that I'm producing is also low. So you need to ask them how you can support them to do their job better. And in that, communication lines are open. Now you can say, you know what, things are a bit tough. I know the Android, sorry to people when chance Android. I know the Android you're using is not right, but let's nail this. Let's do this job properly. We can invest in an iMac. And that is sorry one day. Let's work. Let's meet our targets. Let's meet our KPIs, and then we can get an iMac, and your job will become better, and you can enjoy your job better. So it's always about opening those communication lines and also communicating as well. It's not always about you're speaking down. Let them also be. It has to be a two-way. They need to tell you how they're seeing the situation. You tell them how you're seeing the situation, and work together towards a common goal. I hope I answered that in the business aspect of everything.
Well, if you want to add on that part, maybe you could also add on how maybe the government and the regulations, the policies are also assisting. Let me take, for example, we've got consumer laws, right? For the customers when you go into stores, if you're treated badly, we know where to refer to. So now in the business sector, let's say everyone in here, well, if you have a business, then you're going to have a supplier, right? And you're going to have another buyer. So I want to know more about that part as well. If you just have a few words to add on before we move on to the next question, because we're behind time.
So when you're dealing with suppliers and people like that, you need to always ensure that your legal paperwork is in order. I know that it's so very easy to say, oh, I'm friends with Shamiso, I'm friends with Tatenda, and his business, let's take maybe a baker. He's going to supply me with flour, and we've been friends forever, our mothers are friends, and it's going to work out. No, it's not. At least once, trust me, at least once in any business relationship, you are going to fight. Do not ever think that it's not going to happen to me, I'm very good with my suppliers or my employees. You're going to fight. So you need to always ensure that you have your contracts properly done, and read contracts, please. A lot of people miss one word that could make a very big difference. You literally miss the word liability, where you are liable for everything, even if you're the customer. If you do not read your contracts, you will most likely find yourself in a situation where you have lost your money, and you've also lost whatever supply you were waiting for that was going to help you earn more money. And now it's literally a double loss just because you did not read your contracts properly. So, and also, if you are not well versed in how to read a contract, you need to learn to ask for help. No one man can do it all. You might be an expert digital marketer, but you might be absolutely terrible at corporate law. And now you've got an issue where you have done your end of the bargain, you have given them stuff, and it's not like you can delete it from their social media pages, it's already up there. Your work is already making them make money, but you are now not getting paid. And you're stuck because you thought that, your little one paragraph was going to be enough to fight with someone who has got like a team of 5 lawyers on board. So always ask for help, whether it is with accounting, whether it's with law. If you are not good at something, there is always someone out there who is better than you. I always love working with people who are better than me, because if someone is better than you, they will ensure that you're protected, you're covered. There's going to be things that you're not going to be able to see, that you're going to be blind to, because you're coming from a place of passion. You're coming from a place of, I love doing this. This is my calling. I was put on this earth to do this. And then you're going to come across a supplier or a customer whose sole purpose was on this earth was to just drive people crazy. And now you're stuck. So please, 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 no one man can do everything themselves. Always ask for help.
All right, thank you so much for the wise words. I'm sure you got that part of reading contracts where you used to just ticking the terms and conditions box and then we move on. But then now we're learning. This is why we're here. All right. Okay. So now talking about these relationships here. When everyone starts a business, one of the things that we all want is to link with people who are not from Zimbabwe. Because of the economy and everything, and because we want foreign currency, of course, people want to link with businesses outside of Zimbabwe. How do you establish a relationship? It's not easy. Maybe someone who doesn't have LinkedIn. How do you establish a relationship with a supplier, a buyer, whatever, from someone who's not in Zimbabwe, someone who's not in your country?
Okay. Before I answer that, I want to say, guys, Zimbabwe is where it's at. Please do not divest from this country. This is the country that you come from. This is the country your children will inherit. So make your business in this country. And also, ma G-Wagon in this economy. So you can also have the capabilities to make it work in this country. The second thing I would say is when you are, before I even go further, if you can make it in Zim, you can make it anywhere. Because we have so many challenges. I always call this country temple run when it comes to business. There are so many things that are going to come against you, but you will always overcome. And if you can do there's always, Zim is the, I'm sorry to say I love my country, but the worst case scenario. When you think it couldn't go lower, it goes lower. So if you are able to manage your business and to do okay and well, to pay your employees, to add value to somebody else's life, you are going to make it anywhere in the country. So now it then becomes, how do you approach people in different countries? Guys, Google is your friend. And also too, social media is not for you guys to go and see Makuwa in Zimbabwe. So use social media to your advantage. You are able to meet somebody who's in Malaysia, in China, in Afghanistan on social media. You can forge relationships and working business relationships through that. You're also able to see what other people who are in your industry who are. I didn't touch anything.
Technology.
Did I? No, I didn't. Okay. You're also able to see what other people in different parts of the world are doing with the same service that you're rendering. So you're also able to approach them in that way, even if it's not LinkedIn, because I love LinkedIn, but everyone on LinkedIn has it together. And trust, we don't have it together. So I love being on platforms that actually show the reality of business if I'm getting into a business. So TikTok, you'll find people will be like, I did all of this and I didn't get one sale. That's the reality of business. Those are the people that you want to link with, because after that, you realize they learned from the mistakes that they made. Now they're making more sales. So you need to approach those type of people via social media. So use these platforms very carefully. An hour can pass, we should go scroller mindlessly. But that hour, you can use it to forge or to approach people that can better enrich your business or your working relationship. And also remember, before you approach somebody, what value are you bringing to them? It shouldn't always be about what you can get out of a relationship. It's even if you got a mentor. I always say, before I approach a mentor, what value am I going to give to them? What can they learn from me? Because maybe they are industry leaders in whatever it is that they're doing. But what value can I give to them as a small business owner? So before you approach someone, and don't just say, hi, how are you? And then small talk, I'm fine, thanks, how are you doing? Get straight to the point. Hi, how are you? I'm so-and-so, and I have a business that does A, B, C, D. I would like to engage with you in A, B, C, D. This is the value that I think I can bring to you, and this is what I think I can get from you. Please let me know if you would want to engage. This is my number, and this is my email, whatever it is. Straight to the point, but also let them know that they are going to get something from the relationship that they're going to form with you.
Looking at me like, oh, we're almost out of time.
We didn't start this session.
Hello.
At 1 o'clock exactly. Give us our full hour.
Come on.
Okay, so one thing to really look at when you're trying to, deal with suppliers or customers that are outside of Zimbabwe, even though I am in full support of what Chantel said. If you are in this country, the fact that you are so unhappy with it means that there are so many problems that you can actually solve and make money from. So as much as we want to look outside, we can still make it looking inward. However, for those that are interested, culture. Chantel earlier said that when she was dealing with people from America, it's different. There's no Ubuntu. It's a bit different. So with every culture that you're dealing with, there is a difference. So if you want to deal with, someone in Dubai, Arabs, or in China, you should also just first look at what their culture is like before you start, because you will face a lot of roadblocks, especially as a woman. Some of these cultures cannot accept a woman leader. Some of these cultures will not take you seriously as a woman leader. So, of course, we don't let that stop us, ever. But once you are aware of someone's cultural bias towards you, you now know how to structure, whether it is a letter, it's an email, it's a conversation, how you can guide it, how you can show that it's not my sex that's at play. It is what I have to offer that's at play. So such things are really, really important. I've noticed that a lot of people will just, try and talk to someone in a different country the same way that you would deal with a Zimbabwean. It's not like that. And if you go into international business expecting that level of trust or openness or just, fair play, you will be greatly disappointed if you have not yet looked at, okay, who am I dealing with? I'm dealing with the Arabs. All right, the Arabs will definitely want to be more on the conservative side, but they want the result to be showy, because in their culture, when you show off, when you show up, I saw this other Arab wedding where they were weighing the bride in gold. Oh, sorry for the speakers in the Lobola. They were literally weighing the bride and gold, and the gold had to weigh more than the bride. So their culture is a showing off culture. So now you need to ensure that however you are, packaging your product, however you're packaging your service, you are telling them that if you do this, guess what? You're going to be bigger than Samir's dad. And everyone is going to see you first. So it's stuff like that that they now need to look at when you're dealing with, outside relationships. The cultural aspect, you really, really need to first understand the culture of the people that you're dealing with. And then social media is your tool. Do not let social media use you, because it will. You will spend hours watching other people make money while you're not. Because all you're doing, you're going on there because you want your dopamine kick for the day. Go on social media knowing that, yes, okay, fine, I can relax, I can laugh a little, but if I'm spending an hour, at least 45 minutes of that hour, I need to be learning something. I need to be looking at other people in the same sphere as me, so that I learn what else I can do, or I need to look at the other people that are not in that sphere and how I can maybe bring them in, how I can start showing that this product, you need it, you need me. So do not allow yourself to be used by social media, but use it. I have a lot of people that complain about TikTok, but I'm on TikTok a lot, and I learn a lot. With everything, it is just about your perspective, your mindset. If you're going to go into this room full of all of these amazing people, and you're going to walk out without talking to one person, or trying to at least understand what someone else is doing or is working on, and how you can add value or how you can get value from someone, then you would have wasted your money, you would have wasted your time. You should always try and ensure that in any sphere, in anything you're doing, anywhere you're going, you're not just going to take up space and just show face. You're also going to learn something, to take away something from there. Whether it's at church, it's at these business functions, even in a salon, you will be surprised at the number of, plans and businesses I've got just from talking to other ladies. So you should always just try and make sure that every tool that you have access to, in as much as it is taking from you, you're also taking from it.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, also going back to what she said, she was just talking about how we should actually encourage doing business in Zimbabwe. My parents always told me to such him and I wouldn't GD6. But then thank you so much for that. But then yes, everyone wants to start a business in Zimbabwe. But how do you do that? They yes, you might have the motivation, yeah, but then there are things like tax rates. There are things like inflation that you need to consider. But how do you go past that?
Wanting to go in there and do that, you should always look for support. Money loves good ideas. There's plenty of money in this country. As long as you have a good idea, money will always find you. Capital is not the problem. The problem is you don't know what you want. You don't know what you offer, but you want to do what someone else is doing because you've seen that it's making them money. So once you find out what you have to offer, what are your strengths, what can you provide? Trust me, the right people with the right resources will find you.
How can I top that? But I love what she said about, okay, sorry, before I even go any further, do we have any corporate girlies in here? Just show a raise. Anyone in corporate, anyone who's got a 9 to 5, an 8 to 5? Oh, perfect. Guys, it's not everyone who is meant to be a business owner. It's not everyone who's meant to be an entrepreneur. You can have a side hustle, obviously, that gives you extra income given the economy that we're in, but it's not by force or because we see so many people in business who are not passionate about what they're doing. And that's why we then have, you get this, Zimbabwe has got bad business or people have bad customer relations. It's because you're waking up and doing something that you do not want or do not like. So before you start a business, ask yourself why. Like she's saying, just because I've seen that Chingitai is doing fitness, Ninu at home fitness. No, just because it's making money for her doesn't mean it's going to make money for me. So you need to realize and understand what your why is before you start a particular business. I always say, make a 2-minute business plan. So your business plan is, why do you want to start? Who's your target market? What are your financial projections? So before you even start, Unemari, you will enter into that business. 1. 2, who's going to buy your idea? Who's going to fund it? 3, how are you going to pay them back? What is your plan? What are your projected revenues? What are your projected income from that business? And when do you think that you're going to start breaking even and then making profits? So before you even start, Nyora's usually 1 page in Okwana, and it will show you if your idea is viable. Now when you have passed that hurdle where you say, I know why I want to start, and I know why I want to get into that business, I know I need such and such an amount, I know that I need to approach A, B, C, D to get that funding, and I know that after a specific time period, I'm going to be making X and X amount. Obviously, it's not going to be the same, but you actually need to say, I have a target market that if I put this thing out, I can get X and X amount of sales that will bring me X and X amount of income. Once you have done that business plan, now the real work begins. And the first step is to actually register your business. Let me tell you an L I took literally yesterday. Yesterday, I got somebody who called me up and they were like, oh, hi Chantel, how are you doing? I'm great, how are you? I'm well. I heard you've got a clothing business. Yes, I do. Are you registered? Yes, I am. And then she's like, do you have plans? Do you have tax clearance? Now, I remember my best friend, she's sitting right there telling me, Chantel, get plans. Chantel, get your tax clearance. You need those. But in my mind, I was like, I just do clothing. You know, I usually get customers in corporate. I usually get women who want to look good and feel good in their clothes, and they want a customized shopping experience, and that's what I provide. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought somebody from big corporate would want to supply for corporate. And the first thing I said, oh, I don't need those things because I don't supply for corporate. And she said, honey, this is a good deal you're missing out on because you don't have those 2 papers. So always get your paperwork in order. You might think, oh, my business is small and don't need these things. Girl, you need those things. I'm actually in the process of getting plans as we speak. So get your paperwork in order. You might think, just because I'm starting out, I don't need, guys, if you don't have the money to get somebody to do it for you, it's cheaper for you to go and apply for your own business, Wega. You can do these things, Wega. They now have an online Club Hands for Zimbabwe. We now can actually register our businesses online. You can do those things online. Get your paperwork in order. And this will feed into my second point, which is funding. You might say, I don't have funding, right? But I want to start this business. Just come out in a Queen of Hearts and you blow $60 on sushi and drinks. Save that money, register your business, get your paperwork in order. Now you can go, there's a lot of women in here, and this is an initiative for women. You can go to the Women's Bank, Zimbabwean Women's Bank. I'm sorry, I don't know. I think it's ZWMB, if I'm not mistaken. They have loans. A simple thing as collateral as a stove can get you a loan, and you can start your business. There are so many initiatives that are funding women in Zimbabwe. There are so many incorporations like SME, I don't know what the full name is, that are actually giving business. They're actually giving loans, not just loans, they're actually giving you the tools. They are giving you the ideas, they're giving you the information that you need in various industries that you want to enter into. So don't knock it before you try it. Don't say, you don't even know the incorporates that are giving you money. You don't even know who's actually giving you a training course in whatever it is that you want to do. So after that, research, guys. Google is your friend. The time that you're spending on TikTok, go on Google and just look at the non-governmental organizations that are giving people grants. Look at the people that are actually giving startup accelerators that are giving people money for you to actually further your dream and your idea. And like she said, money loves good ideas. So go back to the drawing board, look at your idea. If you think it's got potential, then start the process of registering your business and your company, getting your paperwork in order, and now research into who can fund so that you can grow.
Thank you so much. You're mainly saying the ladies, but as a gentleman and the gentleman in here, I'm sure we were inspired. And when we go and get our loans, please let's not use our parents' property as collateral. Let's talk to them. But once again, thank you so much. You touched on everything, the relationships. Yes, we all knew some of those things, but then there are a lot of things that we actually got from this. And if you're against something, when you're eating chicken, you don't throw away the whole chicken, you just throw away the bones, yeah. But then you're going to eat nyama, and that's what I hope we got here. So thank you so much. I'm now going to hand over to our MC, who's going to take us from here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wonderful. A big round of applause for our panelists. You may remain seated for the next 10 minutes. We are going to take a quick question and answer for those who have questions. Due to our timing, because food is ready as well. You don't want it to run cold or to get cold. Any questions? Can I have a roving mic? Wonderful.
Thank you very much. I'm a family therapist, so my question is, what really is Mjolo? Because the first time I heard Mjolo, I thought it was a relationship, it was love. And then I threw it, and somebody said, no, Mjolo is actually being in a relationship with a married person. So I think, do we have somebody who speaks Ndebele or something, or Zulu, who can actually educate us on what Mjolo is? Because it's a word that's just going around, floating around. And I understand we do actually have a Mjolo pandemic, but what really actually is Mjolo? I think I really need that, because I'm actually a spouse betrayal trauma specialist. So for those people who are betrayed by their spouses through cheating and whatever it is. So yeah, I really do need to understand. I think one of our speakers actually did point to that.
Okay, to just answer your question quickly, Mjolo is a word that means love and relationships. But like anything else that people do, they turn it into bad. Now people are like, people always put negative connotations towards things, But it simply was just being in love or being in a relationship with somebody. Simply put, it's now how you then term it, how you phrase it, or how you use it, then gives it a positive or a negative connotation.
Thank you very much. And also to add to the contemporary definition, Njolo, the word Njolo emanated from South Africa, right? Mzansi, which means joling with. I'm joling with Waka. I'm joling with Sarah. Get it right? So from then, with the rate of, like in your field, of betrayal relationships, get the point, in social media, intervention in exposing those who are joling and joling, get the point. It became a colloquial name for what we call side hustle relationships. Wonderful. Another question now.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Thank you so much for everything you've said. You've really, really helped me. So I am Alexis and I'm a student. I'm in university. So my question is, I come from a big family. So sometimes the funds will be tight. So I was like, I need to do something, to have some kind of a business for my own needs whilst I'm at school. So last year, I tried to start selling some jewelry amongst my peers. And that was going well. But then, you know, with school pressure and everything, I eventually let it go because it was weighing me down. So now I am trying to think, what kind of a business can I do that will bring me some form of income that I can take care of my needs whilst I'm at school, and I don't have to always be waiting for my parents, or I can just take care of everything that I need for myself whilst I'm away from home. So what would you suggest I do for business? I have an idea, but I'm not so sure how to execute it. Yes, that's my question.
Okay, so I'm going to try to answer this as quickly as I possibly can, but yeah, guys, Chikaf can wait. The first thing that I'll say to you is, in everything that you do it well. All you can do is the best that you can do. If you know that you cannot do something to the best of your capabilities, see ya. And that's clearly what you did, because you could not prioritize. Either one thing was suffering, so that's something you need to sit down with yourself with and say, am I able to do this and do something else? Because regardless of what your business is, it's going to need attention, it's going to need care, it's going to need management. So before you then decide on what you need to do, realize the reality of whatever it is you start, you will need to tend to that garden. Otherwise, everything will die. So you need to make the decision that I am going to do this and also do school at the same time and do the best that I can do at both. So that's just that's the part that I'm going to answer, and I'll leave Shamiso to answer the rest.
So when you're, sorry, could I please see her? Thank you. When it comes to, you know, what kind of business can you start? That's not an answer that a person outside of yourself can tell you. It's something that you need to look within and see that, okay, fine, you've tried doing a business while you're at school, but have you looked at doing a business during the months that you're not at school? Is there something that you can do along those lines? That way, neither your schoolwork or your business suffers. And then you also need to consider the people that are around me, because you see, your sphere of influence should always be the people that are around you. What is it that I can do for the people that are around me that can then make me money? Or what is it something that I can do that is in line? Maybe, let's say, I'm not sure, what are you doing at school? Law. Love. We've just been talking about how people are not reading contracts. Try and see something that kind of works together with what you're doing at school, such that it's also a learning process of what it's going to be like in the, you know, actual working world once you're done with school. Look for something like along those lines. That is one. And then two, I find that sometimes we are wanting to, you said you were doing jewelry, and I'm assuming it's because, you know, girls. Yeah. Girls are going to be your biggest market. But is it something that you are passionate about? Because regardless of what it is that you're going to do, you need to do something that even when you're tired, even when every bone in your body just hurts, you do not stop. Because consistency you need to be consistent. You need to not give up, because the road of being, an entrepreneur or even just making enough money to meet your needs right now, the graph for that is not going to be like a straight line up. It's going to have, you've got your ups and you've got your curves and your dips, and you might have like a really deep dip. So if you are not passionate about it, if it's not something that even when you don't want to wake up in the morning, you wake up and do it, I would go with what Chantel said and just don't do it.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Just a quick census. How many students are in here? How many students are in here? From my experience,
I'm very excited because the two of you are well established and you have built your names in your very diverse industries. And I think I can allot a lot of that to probably you were self-aware and you managed to establish what it is that you really wanted. So because today our topic of discussion is workplace relationships, and I think that has contributed a lot to your growth. So maybe we can start off with the first question regarding emotional intelligence. Maybe you can tell us what is emotional intelligence to each of you and why you think it's important. We can start with you, Miss Emilia.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you very much for having me. I think what they just left, which I really love, is I'm a grandmother of 2 and a mother of 5. So that's my first description. But yeah, so emotional intelligence. I think this is where you need to be wiser than the IQ. Your IQ will give you the good grades, to give you the good passes. But emotional intelligence is where you need judgment. You need to judge, you need to discern. It's very important because in most cases, it's not I'm trying to see how to describe that. It's not the A's or the ones that we got that get us through. Mm-hmm. Those ones will help us to maybe land when you are being screened at first, just to see who we can take. But emotional intelligence will be situational, where you get into a place, you've never been there before, but you quickly scan through the people you're dealing with, the environment that you've got. Mm-hmm. So emotional intelligence allows you to know that what you did, like for me, you've heard I've been to many places. What I did at KPMG and worked well does not necessarily work at Econet. You have to be situational. I think for now I'll leave it there so that he can also come in.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And it's a pleasure. Apologies for that. Please just have an EQ for me. So emotional intelligence is what we term also EQ from the IQ, and it's like she has said, it's situational. But one of the things that's important about emotional intelligence is it determines the end result, because normally you find a lot of things we hear, we also end up, it affects how we respond. So when you hear something, it gets into your ear, goes straight into your mind, actually to your heart, and then mind comes back to your heart and you speak out. So it's very important to understand that when it comes to emotional intelligence, it's got a lot to do also with how you manage your mind and how you allow your heart to be able to respond. Because like we know from the Bible, being a pastor, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So it means that whatever is abundant inside of you is eventually what you're going to deliver outside. So it's very important that you have a good balance in terms of your mentality, and also you allow your heart, protect your heart, if you want to be someone that manages very good emotional intelligence. I believe if we want to give a good foundation of that, that's where we should come from. Thank you.
Right. All very interesting definitions, and I'd like to pick on something that Emilia mentioned, and I'll also come to you, Jefferson. You mentioned something about screening, when you're in the workplace, how you screen before you then give somebody a job. So a lot of times, when you apply for a job, you do this technical test. But one other interesting test that's done is the personality test. where you answer some questions about yourself, different scenarios. Would you say that is effective in determining if the person you're actually going to give the job to has a certain level of emotional intelligence that you would desire?
It definitely does. Because when those questions are being asked, you're basically thinking on the fly, right? So it's different from the other exams that you study. If you're doing biology, you understand how the heart works, you cram or you internalize, whatever it is, but when the exam comes, you know exactly what you're going to write. But when those questions come, it's just like ad hoc. And what I have determined that it helps is because when you get into a work situation, it's not every day. Of course, if you're a production manager, you're going to get the technical things that you already know. But there are certain things, in fact, maybe 20% of your work is routine, 80% is emotional judgments. So it just comes to you, your manager just comes to you and say, you're stupid, in your face. And how you react is exactly who you are. It's nothing that you read. It's not on the internet. It's nowhere. It's what's coming, like what Pastor said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So from those questions, the psychometric tests, it's something that you're thinking on the fly because it's not anything that is in the books. So it actually helps you to say, oh, okay. So you find that normally it's got a scoring that says on questions 1, 3, 10, 15, if you've got a cumulative score of whatever, you can actually conclude if this person is abrupt. People will just stand up in a meeting and start shouting at everyone. Or if this person is well judged, they'll look at you doing all your things and say everyone saying things and they're quiet like they don't know. At the end of 30 minutes, they'll say, actually, I've been listening to this. And so they'll just say 2 words and they close out everyone. So with those questions, you can actually, in most cases, you're able to, there are very few cases where it throws you out. But if you're in HR and you analyze that, then you track how the people perform. It's square, it will reflect.
That's actually interesting. I've taken multiple of these tests, and you find that sometimes the scores can be different. I can take it today, and then I get a specific score, and then maybe I take it again after 2 months, and then I get a different score. So maybe from Jefferson's perspective, as a life coach, as a pastor, would you say emotional intelligence, like a person, can evolve, or is the person faking? How do we regard that?
Okay, I think what's very important at first is to be honest with yourself. There's no reason for you to pretend. There's no reason for you to try and create something that does not exist. That is why you're going to see probably your test scores might not. It's because maybe you've not come to terms with something and you need to deal with it and make sure that you become constant with it. Yeah, because otherwise a lot of people, one thing that affects a lot of people is self-discovery. They fail to discover themselves. We go to school, we get educated, we've got all these papers, but we've actually never really discovered ourselves. So we can have a whole wall of awards and everything, but without even really knowing who I am. So by the time you even take some of these tests, you are also surprising yourself because you're probably trying to look for an answer which you're not even sure of. So basically, if you now discover yourself, it's going to be more effective because now you're answering from what you actually know, what you're actually experiencing, and what is actually real. So I think what's important is for someone to live a life that is not necessarily artificial. I think a lot of people struggle with being artificial because they are living something they are not. So whenever you take some of those tests, you end up trying to look for yourself, but you don't really know where you are. I remember giving this example, maybe in closing on this point, where a girl, let me use, because I think we've got more ladies in here, a girl can be a part of a group because she has been added to the group, not because she is actually a part of the group. So when I say added, it means maybe those people feel if they want to have fun on that night, they need you. But when they want to do serious stuff, they don't need you. So when it comes to productive things, you are never included. But when it comes to the fun part, they know we should call so and so. So it's also because you as an individual, there are certain things that you have put aside to say, okay, this is what makes me who I am. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's who you are. It's only a part of the puzzle. So you think you're a fun person and you think that's it. And you never become productive in your life. So when you take some of these tests, you're always going to be this person today, the other person tomorrow. I'm not saying you actually, but I think that's what I can say. Yeah.
Yes, please.
And thanks. I think I just want to add from what he has said. With the psychometric tests, just to emphasize, be yourself. It's funny when you then start to analyze the results. If you're in a psychometric test and you start scratching your head, or no, your personality test, you can't be scratching your head on, if people say to me, Emilia, what would you do? I don't think about it, because I do it every day. Right. So don't try to imagine what the company would like. Mm-hmm. Because one thing that you also note in those personality tests, there are people that are described as being unstable, where you cannot determine a pattern of their thinking. And if you're an abrupt person, just be abrupt. Maybe the post is requiring an abrupt person. If you are a thinker and someone who takes time to just be yourself, because if you start thinking about who you are, there's a problem. Yeah. Because you're going to answer section 1 according to an abrupt person. You're going to answer section 2 according to someone who's very laid back. You're going to answer section 3. So they're like, this person is unstable. Right. So just be original. And back to your question, it's actually caused by that. When you think, I think I missed it last time. That's why you get different results. Then if you're getting different results from a personality test, because they're not asking technical questions, they just say, what would you do? It means that maybe when you did that the last time you were emotional, the way you're thinking is different from what you're thinking now. But yeah, I just thought I should add that.
All right, thank you very much. That is very valuable. And I think it brings me back to, both your points on self-discovery. I can imagine that's, a process that both of you went through as you were growing in your career. And I imagine self-discovery is more of an individualistic process, But when you're in the workplace, now you're surrounded by, multiple personalities who you interact with differently and who may also somewhat, in some way, influence your thinking and influence your decision. So when we're coming back to emotional intelligence, maybe what are some of the ways that an individual, can use to read and understand their workmates so that it doesn't necessarily influence who they become?
Okay. All right. I think with that one, you use the word, how can they
understand and read the people that
okay, read. That's the word I was looking for. I think the moment you start to try and read people, you're going to have a problem. Because you are going to find things you don't like. You're going to confuse yourself. And like what we've just spoken about, you're going to see different people every day in one person. So try not necessarily to read into someone, but understand that when you get into an organization or you're in the workplace, you have got into a place, it's like a jungle. So you've got different types of animals in that jungle. And at the end of the day, you need to understand, I am coming with my own uniqueness to make this organization what it should become. So when it comes to how other people behave towards you, it should not affect you. But understand that whoever I'm working with and they've got a certain type of persona and so forth, it comes as a complementary kind of thing to what we're trying to build together. Because we cannot have nice people in one organization. We cannot have people that do the things we expect in the same organization. So we're going to have people that are a bit aggressive, people that probably attack us, but all in all, try to look for the positives rather than to rather read on the positives. You know, I think I'll also refer to the Bible again, count your blessings. So when you've got a workmate, rather what you should read on them or look into is what they edify to you as a fellow workmate. Because if you focus on the negatives, it's only going to frustrate you. The moment you're waking up and going to work, you're thinking, but I really don't like how so-and-so, you know, their approach towards me, how they speak to me, and so forth, because it's also going to affect how productive you are. So you need to understand that however you respond or react to what others do towards you and so forth, it's going to be very key in how productive you are. So understand in that jungle, you need to make your space your domain and don't let anyone affect it, but rather understand everyone is there to complement you.
Thank you very much for that. You know, I like the way you started. Please don't try to read into what people are doing. This is probably one of my favorite questions, because I've seen people crying because of it. I've seen people quitting because of it. I've seen people causing chaos because of trying to read into what people are doing.
Right.
And my key advice is, you're not a sign language specialist. What's not said is not there. Because 90% of the things that we conclude, Mamusi, I just came from a house with a really terrible day. You know, maybe my kids were doing stuff, my husband was doing stuff. I just come into the office, oh my God, I am just upside down. And I meet you at reception, I didn't greet you. The next thing, the whole office is, you know, this woman is so, she did this, she's so mean, she saw me, I didn't even see you, oh God. I had issues. Okay. But you've already concluded. And this does not only apply in the workplace, it applies in the home, it applies everywhere. What's not said is not there. Try to be dumb, try to be blunt. Like, you know, even the times when people are going to say things to you that are directed at you, but they are not in black and white. Smile and say, I didn't understand that. What did you mean? Just give the benefit of doubt that that person, what I'm thinking they are saying, is not it. And in most cases, when you actually ask for clarity, until it's said explicitly, don't conclude. Your boss, your subordinate, and this also applies the gender issues that we always clash about and preach about. In some cases, they are not there.
That's so true.
The rest of my career, if you hear what was being said, most likely, 9 out of 10, I was in a room with 20 men and I was the only woman. When I walk in and they say, you look nice, I'll smile and say, thank you. It ends there.
Okay.
There was no advance towards me. They said I look nice. So I just smile and say, thank you. Now can we get back to business?
Amen.
Maybe that person meant something, but I've actually realized in some cases, they just don't know how to say it. And the way they say it makes you think that they're saying something else. So it's not said until it's done. I just thought it's important for us to embrace that point. The second thing that I want to emphasize is the power of diversity. We have women, we have men. We have young people, we have old people like me. You have, what other race? Diversity. Even diversity, Mashingo, ne Mazezulu, it's diversity. And if we don't embrace that diversity, if we accept that in the home, my brother is gonna behave like this, and my husband is gonna behave like this, why do we not accept that the same will happen to Baza? If we embrace that my wife behaves like this, my sister behaves like this, my daughter behaves like this, why all of a sudden a woman crying in a boardroom, why is it an issue?
Yes.
So I'm just saying, don't read what's there. Embrace diversity, harness it, understand it. but never assume things. So that was a long response.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think it was very necessary, and it's going to bring us to our next question, which I actually would like to throw to Jefferson, because you're more of in the creative industry where we have individuals who are very outspoken, not afraid to speak their mind or express themselves. So now, being in such a workplace, how would you advise a subordinate who might potentially have, an employer, which could be any of us here, who does not necessarily have a positive way of criticizing their work? I might come to you with something I've done, and my employer or my supervisor might say, so how would you advise a subordinate, to deal with such kind of a situation without going, expressing their mind to their most liberal self?
Okay. I think I'm going to maybe simplify this a bit. The approach I would give would be, we need to understand when we're in the workplace, we've been planted as a seed. And every seed in that workplace should bear fruit. So if I am in an organization and I've had an opportunity to work for an organization and I don't understand why I am there and what is expected of me, I'm going to focus on the things that don't matter. But if I understand the value that I'm adding to that organization and understand that me being a seed in that organization, I have to be able to water, to manure, but there's also going to be pruning. So pruning will not come maybe not necessarily from my bosses only, but even from my fellow workmates. When they put me on a corner, they're just trying to bring the best out of me. It might not be directly, maybe indirectly, but in every confrontation, whatever happens, just take the positive out of it, like what I was saying. So understand at the end of the day, I need to be fruitful. That's what matters most. Anything that comes to take away that fruit, it means it's out of place. I think if I can quickly give you an example of a weed that's found in Palestine called Daniel. That weed, it's poisonous. So what it does, it grows with wheat. And if wheat is planted and that particular weed is there, what it does is it attacks the roots of that plant. And when it does, it tangles itself around the roots of the wheat. So meaning that when they grow, they look alike. You would actually think it's also wheat. But it's a weed. It's Daniel. So at the end of the day, you cannot take it off, because the moment you take it off, you're also going to take off the wheat. So the moment that wheat is there, they have to grow together. You only see the difference when they're now mature, because the wheat is stronger and that Daniel is on the weaker side. So why I'm saying this is, understand that whenever you have confrontations or if you understood personalities that are surrounding you, do not go along with them every day of your work life. You need to detach yourself from those people affecting you, because at the end of the day, as you try to grow in that organization, they tangle themselves around you. Their personalities tangle themselves around you, and you will not be productive. And you're going to grow with a poisonous weed around you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's very, very interesting. And as we've been having this discussion, I realize we've been focusing more on the individualistic self. What should I do to make sure that I understand myself, my emotions, and how I'm interacting with other individuals? But, maybe let me ask Miss Emilia, being a person who's worked in corporate for so long, you've worked for multiple entities and organizations. Would you say in these different organizations with your different work cultures, the leadership actually invests in their employees or individuals to develop emotional intelligence, or is that largely left to the individual?
I think maybe without divulging corporate secrets, I would not directly respond to that. But maybe something that I've found is emotional intelligence is not something that is popularly taught or trained. But I think now with the focus that people are moving towards mental health, I'm seeing more and more people going into that. It's something that someone has to consciously think about every time. And unfortunately, like they say, you don't know what you don't know. if you don't know that you don't have emotional intelligence, you actually, in most cases, will not know what you need. But for organizations, there's a lot that still needs to be done on emotional intelligence, on mental health issues, because I see a lot of fights that happen at all levels, from the low level to the high level. It's complete lack of emotional intelligence. Just giving an example of the question that you asked. If I know that my boss speaks like this, why does it unravel me? If he says that, you actually know what he's going to say, but you actually go there prepared to fight because, you know, we hype each other on things that don't matter. You tell your friends, you know what, today I'm presenting to that guy. I don't know what he's going to say. And your friends are telling you, just give him one. Okay? And we plan around that. You go there, you create conflict. But once you know that person, when you read into his statements, like what Coach Jefferson says, he's actually trying, at times he's actually making jokes. He's trying to, so he's breaking the ice, and you're just tense. What you're seeing, someone who's being rough. But if someone normally says, oh, wow, geez, I like what you've done. Oh my God, this is beautiful. Oh, then one day you go there, they're like, rubbish. That is when you should say, oh my God, what did I do? Mm-hmm. But if someone is always saying that, then there's no problem. That is them.
Yeah.
At work, at home, at church, do not be the person who's always excited to be told what people were saying in your absence. Because we guaranteed they are going to say things. So if you pay audience to that, you're destroying yourself. Just say, oh, so whatever they say, did you tell them it's wrong if you know? Or maybe they tell you, don't take it to heart. Try to analyze, take time to analyze to say, actually, did Anna say that? What does they say about me? Don't be quick to go and say, but you said this, but you said that. In fact, have a case with the person that has told you. That's one thing. And employees always say, oh yeah, grapevine, did you hear this? The reason why it's grapevine is because they're saying things they should not be saying. Secrets are normal. That's why I said I don't want to talk about where I worked. There's a lot of information that I've got now, which maybe I didn't like or which I liked, but I got privileged information by virtue of the office that I held. It doesn't make me special or to then come and say, you know, at KPMG, at Econet, this and that, at Cassava. You actually then start to evaluate the person who is saying that. Mm-hmm. But the tragedy that we've got, when we hear someone saying that, oh my God, we all congregate. So tell us more. What did they say? Tell us more. You actually also add your stories, not knowing when they live there. Running very mirror. I can't keep secrets. They will take what you said. They'll go and say, what this person was saying. So it creates conflict. And a lot of conflicts that I saw, funny enough and sadly enough, grown-up men, grown-up women, and children alike, we all fall into this grapevine thing. So my advice, please stay away from it. Tell people from people from day one, when you hear people saying things about me that you don't believe in, tell them. They're the ones who need to know. Because when they tell you, in some cases, like I'm saying, at times I'm strong, I'll say I don't want to hear about it. But at times I'll hear it and it will rip me apart. Mm-hmm. But maybe when I recollect myself, I start saying, but hey, what was their objective? To come and tell me those hurtful things, what does it solve? Nothing. It just rips you apart, destroys your relationships. So please, don't talk about people and try to desist from listening to grapevine. Thank you.
Just before you answer that, thank you so much. And as we're about to wrap up, to also allow our audience, to ask a few questions. As you take that question, Jefferson, I also want you to include in your answer the effects that grapevine has within the workplace. And would you say it leads to discrimination of individuals? Does it build a toxic work environment? And how best can an individual deal with that should they be, a victim of grapevine communication?
Right. So grapevine communication is it's very dramatic. I look at it as a soapy because basically you find that there are different types of it, but at one point there's one person that is basically sending information to everyone, and every time anything comes out, it's coming from that one person and spreads out to everyone. Then there's also what you call the single strand chain, where it's going from, it's like a line, it's going from until it gets to the ultimate recipient. So there's always an ultimate recipient, but by the time it gets to that person, that information might have changed. That's also the biggest danger, because from the first person who receives, who hears that information, till it gets to the ultimate recipient, it's going to be very different. Some are going to add a bit of spice into it. So you're going to realize that if it then goes back to the first person, you are definitely going to dislike them, because the version that you now have after the line is very different. And they'll probably tell you, I didn't say that. But everyone will say, no, it came from that source. So it then begins a lot of, you're going to see groups developing within the team. You're going to see a lot of enmity coming up because so-and-so is now refusing that. They say this, it's now going back from where it started, from the ultimate recipient going backwards, because everyone now is referring to the person that told them. So already it brings a lot of commotion in the team, which is why I believe we have team building in organizations, because I think some of the worst problems that a team faces develop from this grapevine issue. Yeah, so I really think what's important is do not be part of the chain. Just avoid being part of the chain, because by the time it gets to the ultimate recipient, you would have been a part of destroying someone. So understand that if someone wants to gossip about another person at the organization you're working, please just desist from being a source. Stop it right there and take it back to them. Yeah, so if we just have a few individuals that decide this will stop here and it will not get to the ultimate recipient, because that's the target of the first person who releases the information. They wanted to get there, but they want everyone to first get it. If they are going to dilute it, if they're going to concentrate it, whatever it is, so that it's very effective by the time it gets to the recipient. So I think you just need to decide to be the one that stops it.
Okay, thank you so much. And just before I hand it back over, to the MC to open up the floor for questions, I think I'd like, both of our panelists to give us closing remarks and, touch on how best us as individuals, whether we're in a professional or corporate workplace, creative industry, can build a good relationship between, our supervisors and our other workmates.
Right. I think what I just think we need to always visualize is, why am I here? Wherever you go, home, work, church, why am I here? What is your purpose? What is your unique selling point? I know we're all selling our business and say, take me because you're gonna get this. But you gotta have a unique selling point as a person. You gotta have a mission statement. This helps so that you'll be able to stand your values. The issue that you started with of personality tests, have a personality. Now when you talk to my kids, it's so funny, I turned 50 this year, so people were sending their messages and whatever, and there's one consistent message that I got about me, which surprised me, from my kids, from work, from church, and everyone was like, you just go like this, you just say things as they are. I don't plan to do that. But in the process, I have to accept that I'm gonna disappoint certain people. I'm going to unruffle certain people. But I have understood that Emilia is the most important person in my life. My kids, my husband, anyone else is secondary. My kids don't like this. But Emilia is very important. So I have to safeguard Emilia. And I have to be real. Even at work. The reason why we are having challenges at work is because you go there, you see Emilia. You try to think, how does Emilia do this? By all means, kopa idoili rakanaka. But you can't have Emilia's personality because you're not Emilia. Remain original. Our household needs diversity. You'll need them when you need to kudzinga vanhu. You need to nasanyadzi. Okay? When you need to negotiate certain stuff, you need noti. No. Slowly. So everyone has got a place. Even Kubasa, when you go there, you're going to get to a place. I went to Econet and, well, that was my first change of job because I went to KPMG. So, my first change of job at 21 years after working. I always got told that, Emilia, here, we don't XYZ. But after a few days, I said, I am not here. I am Emilia. So instead of saying, here we don't do this, I got to ask, Emilia, is that what you don't do or you've got something else? So that diversity is very important. Don't go and quote what the boss does because everyone else will do that. And that company or department will be boring. So remain true to yourself, define who you are, have a purpose, mission statement, and you find when you do that, you're not easily shakeable because you know exactly where you're going. Thank you.
Very powerful. I will also close by saying I'm very strong on being a brand. And that's why you actually see I'm wearing my brand. So you need to understand you are a brand. You don't need to be a celebrity to be a brand. You don't need to be having 1 million followers on social media to be a brand. You need to believe you're a brand. Wow. So the moment you believe you're a brand, everything is possible. And please, you don't need everyone to like you to be a brand. Because when you walk into any shop, any store, you're going to go to the shelves and you're going to pick a particular brand for a particular reason. Some of us, it's maybe because how it's packaged. Some of us because of the value. Some of us, it's because of a referral. But you pick a particular brand. So even maybe for me to be here, maybe it was a referral. Maybe it was because of how I packaged myself. Maybe it was because of how I value myself. So you need to understand that everything that happens around you is because you have decided to be a brand or you're not a brand. So define yourself as a brand and define the brand you want to become and how you want to package that brand. So whether you're in an organization or you're at home, whatever space you are, understand that value addition will come because you've consciously chosen to be a meaningful brand.
Wow, thank you so much. I think this panel discussion has been very insightful, and I'm sure we've all taken a lot that we can take back to our workplace, whether it's corporate or it's creative or you're running your own business. And I will close off by saying, be original and be true to yourself. Thank you very much.
Can we give the panel one round of applause?